Hey everybody, it's Carl, and I am going showing you an article that I wrote, and it's about journaling for mental health. So I wrote this article on Beehive, and I really like Beehive because one, it's free to get started, and it's super easy to get everything that you need out pretty quickly. I really like it. I like it more than LinkedIn, although there are some things about LinkedIn that I do like where I'm able to go in and access the article pretty quickly to edit it. So, but this video is about journaling for mental health, and just had a I don't know. I know this isn't a review of Beehive, but I really like they have this Threads feature, so it tells you how important Threads is. Instagram Threads is becoming, and so yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but so I have this introduction. I guess life has a way of pushing us to the edge, testing our resilience in ways we never imagined. I wrote this article because I want to help people who are going through a hard time and who want to understand how important mental health is and why journaling is beneficial. So, this is a story of resilience and the healing power of reflection. So, I use different programs to manage my mental health. I use Airtable as well as a journal app called Day One, and there is another application on the iPhone called How Do We Feel. It's amazing. I love that app. So here you can see journaling has become my way to cope, to process, and to recognize that even from rock bottom, there's always a way to rise. I think this chart is really interesting because it shows how I've been able to grow my business. And each point represents a distinct period in my journey and how I've been able to overcome it and what life could have been like if I didn't proceed or carry on. So down here, you can see the beginning of 2024 when I first started. I initially didn't know what I was doing as far as like measuring clicks and understanding where people are coming from. So these aren't views, just to be clear, these are clicks. And I've been able to go a month, 2 months, and I'd say about the third and fourth month is when things started making sense for me. And I was able to grow the business in June. But right here, it took about one, two, three, four, about 4 or 5 months for me to see growth. And then look, they call this the hockey stick growth. And from here, it went straight up to 2,000 clicks per month. Incredible, right? And so that was what we call the breakthrough growth. But from there, a lot happened in my personal life. And I don't want to go too much into it just out of respect, but I will say this: it was one of the hardest times in my life, even more than my military deployment. It was up there. I was going through some serious mental stuff where, I was questioning a lot, like who I was and that sort of thing. But you can see I was onto something. And I'll tell you, this period of growth that happened there in June was a result of getting systems in place and URLs and clicks. And I was able to grow just incredibly fast. And I'll say, like, some of my strategies were probably not conventional. I mean, I'm very data analyst. And so I was able to measure clicks in a way across the board through articles, videos, anything and everything I could create. I was measuring it, my music, etc. So as we continue to look at the graph a bit more, we talked about how this period of time, it's been almost a year since I've been working on my business and talk about mental health. But as I've been growing as a person, this is a direct reflection of how writing things down allows you to analyze your behavior. And it's the same with journaling. So I use different apps, right, to analyze like what I'm thinking and then also what my business is doing. So it's about measuring everything and getting an idea of where you're at in the process. And right here in phase two, you can see there was a strong dip. And this is natural. It's like a course correction. It says a lot about where you're at mentally. It's usually a direct reflection of your business. So in phase two, I went homeless. I became homeless, and I want to share that with you. And I was living out of my car for 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks, and I was doing everything I can, but it just kept dropping for what is that? 1 month. 1 month of just pure not fun and didn't have any internet connection. I had to go to Starbucks to get internet. I had to shower at random places and constantly looking over my shoulder to see if I could sleep in this particular area. I didn't want to get in trouble for trespassing, so it was really tough. And I was going through a lot of struggle, asking for help through donations. And so we're at phase three now, where I'm at like the heart of homelessness, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to work on my business. And then I started applying for houses, trying to get into something where I could be steady again. And I'm kind of going over this pretty quickly, but basically, I found a house in September. I found a place to live, a temporary shelter. And that's where I've been able to recover and basically identify what's going on, not only in my life personally, but I was a time for me to go over my notes and reflect. That means going over my apps, like how do we feel as the app, my day one journal, and then all of my databases on Airtable. I've been able to go through and analyze, like I was able to get back in the flow and really just recover from all the trauma that was happening in my life. But I want to reinforce the fact that right here in this particular phase three, it was a lot of mental stuff that I was going through. What I mean by that, I was having thoughts, and I think we all know what that means. And just going through a lot of mental stuff, and I just want to share with you, it's challenging to work on your business when you're going through that sort of thing. And when I finally got housing, I was able to look back at my notes and go forward. So in phase four is when I was recovering. I was starting to process a lot of what just happened that led to my homelessness. I didn't quite make more money at this point, but I did start getting that ambition again to work on my business. And from then, it's just skyrocketed. So in October, we're not in October anymore, we're in November, early November. And this graph is actually off. It jumped up another 500. So it jumped up another 500 clicks. So it exceeded my 2,000 clicks per month mark, which means I not only overcame the highest point right before I went homeless, but I was able to exceed that. And that's a testament to my resilience. And that's called phase five, which is rising above. And it kind of brings tears to my eyes because I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but growing a business is tough. And, there were, especially through January through June, there was a lot of wiggle. There was like maybe 500 clicks a month. So this graph isn't completely accurate. There was some, but it was pretty flat. And then in phase, obviously it grew there, it went down, and then it just launched back up. So that's why it's important to take care of your mental health. And that line, I think, is what I want to say is in phase two to phase three, that could have easily gone to zero. Like, you know what I mean? And so I just want you to pause and think about that for a second. And I was able to grow it even more. And right now I'm about 2,500 clicks a month. And so now I'm able to really analyze where all my clicks are coming from, all the referral traffic, which links are performing well, and ultimately refining my business. And I'm seeing the compound growth now. You can see down here, I'm not averaging 500 clicks a month anymore. Even with this dip right here, I'm averaging about 1,500 clicks a month, and it just keeps growing. So as we look more into the article, we already talked about phase one, where when you're growing a business, it does take time. Although I've been doing this a lot longer than just a year. So it took a long time for me to get that hockey stick growth. But the significance was it was a period of exploration, that it was a slow and steady buildup where each click felt like a confirmation that this was worth pursuing. I was testing the waters, learning how to reach out to people for help, not only in my business, but elsewhere, mentally. And it was setting the groundwork for what was to come. And then in phase two, you start seeing a rapid increase in clicks. That's that hockey stick growth that we talk about. So this jump likely represents when I started refining my strategy and connecting with my audience in a more meaningful way, in a way which resonated with people. And then in August marks a significant dip in clicks. It was challenging because I faced homelessness, and it was ultimately a temporary halt in growth. This flat line represents one of the hardest times in my journey. The struggle was so intense that it impacted my ability to keep up the momentum. It's a visual reminder that even the strongest growth journeys face setbacks. And sometimes, right here, survival takes priority over growth. It's really sad. After finding housing, I managed to rebuild, picking up the pieces and pushing forward. And it marks the resilience that defines my journey. And then I had the strength and determination to bounce back. Phase five right here is probably the most important. because my October clicks peaked even higher than before, surpassing July's numbers. This is the culmination of all the hard work, resilience, and faith. It symbolizes the beginning of a new chapter where my online presence starts to flourish. It shows that growth isn't linear and that sometimes the biggest leaps forward come after the hardest struggles. And it represents the journey that I've chosen to pursue despite its challenges. So, for anybody wondering what it takes, it's a lot. You have to go through a lot, and I know everybody's situation is different. So, back then, the goal was simple: let's get noticed. So, like I said, in August, I lost my home, my stability, and my footing, literally begging for food. And this dip isn't just a decline in numbers, it's a visual reminder of the challenges that I faced, and ultimately the setback that could have ended everything for me. And it represented a period where staying consistent became nearly impossible. October marks a triumphant return, bouncing back stronger than ever, stronger than before. And facing setbacks and challenges head on and choosing to keep going. This chart is a symbol of a journey that cost me everything, a testament to what it means to give everything you have, even when it seems like there's nothing left. I had made a choice to go all in on something that I felt was meaningful at the time. I knew the risks and I knew the costs, but nothing prepared me for how it would truly feel to lose everything. I took a lot for granted. There were countless times when I questioned myself, and then somewhere within me I found a strength I didn't know I had. I managed to steady myself, I found a place to live, and with it a renewed sense of purpose. And few will ever understand what it takes to get there. And this is where journaling and mental health go hand in hand. It's the sleepless nights, the loneliness, the struggle, and the self doubt is what I struggle with. I just don't know too many people that are doing what I'm doing. It was about proving to myself that I could build something from nothing. And maybe, just maybe, it's about showing others that they too can rise from the darkest moments. Because if I can go from losing everything to watching that line climb once more, then there's hope for anyone who feels like they're at the end of their rope. It taught me that success isn't measured in numbers, but in the strength to keep moving forward when the odds are against you. And also taught me that the greatest victories come not from what we gain, but what we overcome. Journaling is one of the most powerful tools for mental clarity and emotional balance. Especially during tough times, you can learn a lot. And then here you can see I have a collection of articles that you can look at. I have been big into whether it's products, articles, videos, affiliate related products, etc. So check out for those links, they're pretty good. So I started this journey because I needed a way to work for myself. I had PTSD from my combat deployments, and hypervigilance became a big part of my life. Traditional workforce, it felt nearly impossible for me, and still does, like a trigger just waiting to go off. And so building an online presence became more than just a creative pursuit. It was a lifeline, a way to make money on my own terms. Relationships faded and I became isolated, pouring everything I had into building this. And the point I want to make here is that line could have easily gone the other way, but it didn't. And that's the story of why I keep going. And it's proof, despite the odds, I can build a life that works for me and that doesn't force me to sacrifice my mental health just to make a living. And then right here, I just want to emphasize how reaching out to other people when you're feeling a certain way, connecting with them and sharing your story helps out a lot. It's what created a sense of community, even the moments of it in isolation. And what's next for me is just continuing to make money online, making sure I take care of myself, and hopefully sharing my vision with others for the future, and further increasing my brand awareness for Wolf Official. So if you want to help out in any way you can, here's my Cash App. I'm active on TikTok and Instagram. Venmo, I've been receiving a lot of donations through Venmo, which I've been super grateful. I still am in temporary housing and could use assistance with paying my bills. This is a print-on-demand mug that I created, and I'm a big advocate for homeless veterans. So yeah, journaling, whether it's through day one or how do we feel, the application, or using Airtable to document your journeys, to come up with, combating negative thought patterns and stuff like that. There's a lot of ways to do it, but you have to get it out of your head and write it down. That's what's worked for me. And so that is my article on journaling for mental health.